Hello, everyone. Happy Friday evening, the day before New Year's Eve. You'll probably be listening to this, honestly, on New Year's Eve. I'm recording this, honestly, just right after the game here between the Penguins and the Devils, as the Penguins have suffered their fourth straight loss. Still in third and fourth place in the Metropolitan Division, right around there, but missed a big opportunity tonight to pick up 2 points in the standings as they let a late second period lead slip away and lost 3-2. We're going to touch on everything that went wrong for the Penguins in this game, starting with the special teams and how that was the main reason the Penguins lost. We're going to get into Tristan Jarry and how I did not like that third goal, Evgeny Malkin's poor back check, how I thought the third period went, especially with the forechecking, everything about the power play, all of that, plus so much more to recap on this episode of Locked On Penguins, and it comes right after this.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. So remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes, follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. For those that are watching on YouTube, yes, the beard is gone. I probably look like I'm 12 years old now recording the show instead of the 25-year-old man that I actually am. But yes, it looks really interesting when I don't have a full beard on. But Devils 3, or Penguins, well, Devils 4, I should say. Penguins 2, almost forgot about the empty netter at the end. Penguins suffered their fourth straight loss. And, the main thing that we got to touch on first, power play. Dreadful performance from that unit. 9 power play opportunities. Garrett Rank, the NHL ref tonight, who decided to call every penalty, which is very rare in the NHL. You do not see a team get 9 power play opportunities very often. The Penguins squandered every single one. That is where the game was won and lost. And the Devils, to their credit, 9 penalty killing, not 9 for 9 on the penalty kill. They also, I believe, got a power play goal. Special teams won the day. They won out. Penguins, they had the advantage on special teams coming into this game. If you were to probably play this 8-9 other times, I would say the Penguins win most of them. But tonight, I think, was the exception, not the norm. But speaking, just sticking with the power play, what a terrible night it was for that unit. And yeah, Ty Smith was quarterbacking. It's his first game. I maybe would have done POJ up there just because I think, he's more polished at this point, working on the power play. I know Smith is a good mobile defenseman who can move the puck well, but I just didn't see enough from him on that top power play to warrant him, continuing getting those minutes. I think after the third or fourth one, I would have made the change to POJ, and they did do that once. POJ actually did come on the top power play late in the second period, but when they had that 4-minute double minor in the third period, right, and a little bit before that on some other power play opportunities, it was Ty Smith running the show, and especially at the end of the game when the Penguins were trying to mount the comeback with a 6-on-5, it was Ty Smith there too. I personally would have had POJ at the point running it just because, I thought Ty had a fine debut, but I just wasn't a fan of those kind of weak wrist shots from the point. They just weren't really doing it for me, at least in my opinion. But outside of him, I should say, all the top players on that unit were terrible tonight. Yes, I understand Evgeny Malkin scored, but power play wise, I didn't really think he was that good. I thought Sidney Crosby played one of his worst games of the season, just was not there. Numerous opportunities tonight where the puck just bounced over his stick for whatever reason when he should have a couple tap-in goals. There was one in the third period, I should say, Russ was able to get the puck over to him, but it just got over his stick. Usually Sid is able to corral that, but it's a bad night for him when he's not able to do that. Jake Guentzel, I thought he played awful tonight. We're going to touch on him a little later on in this episode because he's been a major problem for the Penguins lately, and I don't think enough people are talking about. We're going to get into some of the stats, which really show that Jake is just not happening this year. But the top players on the unit were bad. I thought the zone entries were atrocious. The Penguins were just sending it into the zone willy-nilly. not really taking much care in the world with it, the Devils are easily able to clear it. Again, I will credit the Devils for going 9 for 9 on the PK, but I don't really think the Penguins made them truly work for it. That's going to sound weird, especially if some Devils fans tune into the show. And I'm not trying to discount not going 9 for 9. 9 for 9 is very good on the PK. They deserve credit for it. It's the big talking point of the game. I'm just saying that I don't think the Penguins, did enough to just make it seem like, oh wow, like this was, amazing and all that. I think the Penguins, kind of gave it to them on a couple of those penalties, especially that 4-minute double minor in the third period. Brian Dumoulin draws that penalty. Nice job by him. There's a little bit of blood near his lip. Penguins get that 4-minute double minor. Do you guys even remember a good quality scoring chance on that? I sure don't. I mean, I have my notes right here. Couple shots from the point from Ty Smith. That's it. Evgeny Malkin didn't do anything. Jake Guentzel didn't get any good looks. Sidney Crosby didn't get many good looks. Rickard Rakell before he was bumped down for Brian Rust. They kind of made the Devils' job a lot easier, to be honest with you. The Penguins, their puck movement, I thought was also atrocious. Everything that they were doing right during that past 12-game stretch, right, where they had 11 out of their last 12 games where they had a power play goal, it all evaporated in this game. And yes, I know the Devils PK has some good players. Sharon Govich is very good. Nico Hischier had a shorthanded goal tonight. It's hilarious. On 9 power play opportunities, the Penguins were outscored 1-0. That is embarrassing. That's sad. I had some people, some Devils fans coming to my mentions about that. Yes, that is, the Penguins will take the L for that. You cannot allow that to happen. Jesper Bad, I think, also plays on the penalty kill, but still, I don't think the Penguins made the Devils work, nearly hard enough than they could have on the penalty kill. And it showed. The Penguins had numerous opportunities to take over this game when the Devils were taking, clear penalties. There was one, remember, when the Penguins took the lead in the second period, 2-1 game, right? Jeff Carter gets the goal. The Devils were about to challenge it. Nope. They get the delay a game because they were taking too long. Penguins get a power play there. You can really potentially go up 3-1. They act like there's not a care in the world, and they're just not doing anything. I'll go back to use another example, right? Penguins make it 1-0. Well, actually, excuse me. The Devils thought they tied it off a Dougie Hamilton goal, right? But the ref calls it no goal. They said it was goal interference. Lindy Ruff challenges it, loses it. The Penguins get the power play because that's the rule, and there's a chance that right there to go up 2-0. It's a pivotal point in the game. Nope. No one wants to do anything. The second unit, I think, was just as bad as the first unit. A really awful night for the Penguins power play. I cannot sugarcoat it for Yins enough. This was probably the worst I've seen the power play all season, bar none, not even close. Even when they were struggling early on in the season, they were still getting some decent chances, I think, on the unit. In this one game, though, I can't even recall a single good chance that they had. They had some shots, sure, but how many of those were actual quality scoring chances? Yes, the Devils did a good job limiting them to the point and to the outside a little bit, but the Penguins, with how talented they are, I expect a lot better. 0 for 9, it's not good enough. They haven't been 0 for 9 on the power play since 2009, according to Bob Grove. That's when they beat the Rangers 4-3, actually. So it's been almost 14 years since they had gone 0 for 9 on the power play. But special teams is where this game was won and where it was lost. I know some people are not going to like that explanation, but at 5v5, I think my original perception was a bit skewed because of the third period. I thought the Penguins did not play well at 5v5. It was close at even strength, but, with how many special teams power plays there were for both teams, Penguins had the opportunity to win it there. And these last few weeks, where it's been very rare that they've lost a special teams battle, they did tonight. So that's where it was won and lost for me. That's how I see it. But that wraps up, I think, this first segment of today's episode. Coming up in the second segment, we're going to touch on Tristan Jarry, how I didn't like that third goal that he gave up. We'll also get into what led to that third goal, and we're going to touch on Jake Guentzel's struggles because it's been really bad for him as of late. But before I get to that, say you're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks. A few becomes a few too many as the evening comes to an end and people start to head out. You think of calling for a ride. Now you live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. what are the odds you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risk of driving drunk. The results are tragic, and they are often very deadly. However, that does not stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence of alcohol. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again, especially when it comes to New Year's Eve tomorrow night. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @LR_Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. I have a wonderful new Penguins mug here that my girlfriend got me for the holidays. I do not drink enough water, I think, during these shows. So glad I am for this one. So let's get into Tristan Jarry's performance. Thought he was mostly fine. Overall, made some good saves. First two goals, really can't blame him for those. I mean, the Hamilton one, Jake Guentzel was. We'll get to that in a second, but the Devils basically had a 5-on-4 in that situation because Jake Guentzel was kind of cherry picking at the near the blue line, actually past the blue line, and they had Ducky Hamilton as a wide open net. And then the other goal, no chance. That's a Jack Hughes wrist shot, people. I mean, he's one of the best players in the league. He's going to do that to any goalie. And then the third goal, though, is where I have a problem. So you have the end of the second period, 2-2 game. You have the power play. They got the power play with $1:58 left, if that sounds right. I believe so. So all you have to do is, obviously not give up a shorthanded goal. You're going to at least go into intermission tied, but that was not on the cards for the Penguins. They had that first unit out there probably a little too longer than they should have, and the Devils come down on a 2-on-2. Nico Hischier gets the puck, blows past Evgeny Malkin, and I am sorry, Gino. You have done so many great things for this organization throughout your tenure here, and you have been awesome this season, but please back check a lot better next time. That was and I hate using this word for him, that was lazy. I get it. He's out there for a while. He's a bit gassed, but you know what? Do a little bit better with your back check there. That was just very lazy, I think, in my opinion. Just didn't really give much of an effort. And then for Tristan's perspective, he needs to come out of the net more. That is a shot from the angle that Hischier had it, right? Kind of like to the right of the dot. It's an uncontested wrist shot from that area of the ice. I'm sure people are going to tell me, it's just a perfectly placed shot, blah, 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 blah. In my opinion, no. I think Tristan needs to make that save. He needs to come out. He needs to take away that angle, and he needs to be aggressive, and he needs to make that save. Yeah, it went off the post and in, so it was a decent shot a little bit. But that said, Tristan needs to make that save, especially when the first unit's been out there for a while. Again, I understand that Gino's back check was not the greatest. He could have pushed Hischier into the boards if he's able to hustle a little bit more. But that said, I did not like that goal from Jarry. I think he could have done better with it. That's how I feel about it. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. You can DM me on social media as well. That is how I see it personally. And, if we're going to talk about goaltending as well, we should also look at the defensive play for some of the other two goals that Penguins allowed before the empty netter. Just because Tristan wasn't at fault for those two goals, especially the second one, which tied the game with 3 minutes left in the second period. If you go back and watch the replay, it's basically a 5-on-4 for the New Jersey Devils there. And they got a couple of bounces. That's hockey, Penguins get those sometimes. But, watch where Jake Guentzel is on the ice. Look where to see he is, because he is not even in the defensive zone. He is well past the blue line, kind of cherry picking near the red line, to be honest. And, that's not good enough from one of your best offensive players. I get that he's not been a good defensive player since he came into the NHL. I actually saw a stat today during the game from Danny Shirey of DK Pittsburgh Sports that really put this into perspective of how bad he's been defensively over the last 3 seasons. According to Danny, his isolated impact on suppressing quality chances ranks 370th out of 382 forwards with 1,000 minutes plus played. Again, so he's 370th out of 382 players in terms of suppressing quality chances. And what that means, suppressing shots means, you're not allowing, a lot of quality chances while you're on the ice. But when he is on the ice, he is one of their worst defenders as a forward. And, he needs to be in the defensive zone in that sequence. It's not good enough, and it needs to change. And honestly, Yins, this has not been talked about enough either. Jake Guentzel needs to start playing better as a whole. It's gone a little under the radar. I've kind of noticed it. I haven't really wanted to bring it up, but tonight, this is probably his worst game of the season. He is not doing enough at all. He has not scored a 5-on-5 goal since early November. Unacceptable for someone like him. You all know it. He's one of the best goal scorers, not just on the team, but around the league. But it's not happening this season. Again, no 5-on-5 goal for him since early November. I'm sure he's kicking himself about it. I don't know if he's playing hurt, if something's been bothering him or whatever, but, still, he's not getting to those dangerous areas of the ice where he can put the puck in the back of the net. He's also not driving the net front a lot more than he usually does. He's not using that beautiful shot that he has. I don't know if I would demote him down to the Malkin line and move someone like Zucker up, just because I think Zucker has done so well with Gino this season, but something needs to change with Jake. Sorry, I had to take a sip of my water there. But yes, overall, something needs to change with him. His play right now is unacceptable, especially for someone that's making $6 million per. His contract is up, not after this season, but after the following season. If he wants to get, 8, 8.5, 9 million, something like that in this league per year on the Penguins, he needs to play a hell of a lot better than he is right now. I kind of have no doubt that he's probably going to respond at some point, just because that's what great players do. But he was abnormally bad tonight, not just offensively, but defensively. And he needs to start putting the puck in the back of the net a lot more. Again, same with Sidney Crosby. I thought tonight he was dreadful. He's been awesome all year. He usually follows up this kind of performance with one of his best performances. Funny enough, the Winter Classic is, of course, the Penguins' next game. He's had plenty of, he's had at least one big moment at a Winter Classic, of course, going back to 2008 when he had the shootout goal and had that amazing celebration. But fact of the matter is, he was not good tonight either. And honestly, to wrap this up, I don't think most of the top Penguins players were good tonight at all. I really do not think that. Outside of Malkin's goal, which was vintage, he picked Dougie Hamilton's pocket, took his lunch money, and fired that top cheese past Vitek Vanacek. Very nice shot from him. I thought it was just kind of a dud for him after that. Again, his defensive work wasn't the best. And I know he's not known for his defensive work, but still needs to be a little bit better. He just also wasn't threatening on the power play. Ricard Raquel, I think, could have done a bit better. Brian Rust has been struggling as of late. He had that goal against Carolina last Thursday, which was awesome, but still, outside of that, he's still not playing at the level that we expect Brian Rust to play at. So, yeah, and I get it. Kris Letang was not playing tonight. Chef Petrie was not either two of your best defensemen, but the top players need to be better. And I think they will be moving forward. I think if the top players are better tonight, the Penguins probably win this game, especially if their power play produces. But, these games happen, and, at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. But that wraps up this segment, touching on Tristan Jarry, Jake Guentzel, and some of the other top players. Coming up in the final segment, we're going to get into some coaching decisions that I saw tonight from Mike Sullivan that I actually did like a little bit, and go into some other performances that I thought were good as well, and also touch on some other stuff about the team and why, I know that this looks bad, but again, I do think that they're going to get close to breaking out of this sooner rather than later. So stick around for that coming up in this final segment. All right, I'm back here in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LR Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So let's get into, right before the game, Mike Sullivan finally made the decision to move Jeff Carter to the wing. And it actually paid dividends. Look at the second goal. He comes up off the bench. And I know he's kind of playing center in a situation, but he's able to drive the net, as a winger, even though he's kind of playing center in that situation. And he's able to get the puck to the blue paint. It goes off his skate, and then originally was POJ's goal, but it goes back to Carter. And the Penguins were able to score to make it 2-1 there. He wasn't taking any of the defensive zone draws. I saw the Penguins were doing a little bit better in the faceoff circle. That is always good as well. And, when he's on a center, he doesn't have as many defensive responsibilities. And I think you saw him take a small step forward in those categories tonight. Again, it's baby steps. I understand. But I like that decision for Mike Sullivan to move Carter to the wing. I liked Teddy Bluger as the third line center tonight, which meant Ryan Poehling came back and was the fourth line center, which I'll get to in just a second. I liked that decision from Sully. Speaking of Ryan Poehling, he came back after a few games with a lower body injury. He said this was the best he's felt since earlier in the month. Apparently, he said he's been dealing with a really nagging injury that he was playing through, but just couldn't play through anymore. But he said he feels fine now. I think he played fine. I think at this point we have to understand that, outside of a pretty decent penalty killer, he's not going to bring you too much at 5v5. He scored, excuse me. He scored a few times this season, but he's not going to really drive possession as a fourth liner. He's not going to score a bunch of goals for you like Brock McGinn has, for example, this season on a really nice unsustainable shooting percentage, I should say. But, I think we have to just temper our expectations for Poehling a little bit because, he's mainly just going to be that defensive first player who can play well in the penalty kill, but I don't think it's going to chip in too much. It's just kind of like a tweener. To me. Touched on Ty Smith a little bit, but I really did think he had a pretty decent debut tonight. I thought he moved the puck pretty well up the ice at 5v5. He was on the ice for 1 goal, 0 goals against, 12 shot attempts for, 14 shot attempts against. So not good with Corsi, but he did have 68% of the Penguins did have, 68%. Geez, I cannot talk. When he was on the ice, the Penguins had 68% of the expected goal share. So that's good. So at 5v5, he was fine. On the top power play, though, wasn't overly impressed. And I get it, first game. But didn't like some of those weak link shots from the point. I think he could have done a little bit better moving the puck around to the perimeter to Sid and Gino and Guentzel, of course. And that's why, again, I would probably put POJ back up on that top unit. I'm heading into Monday's Winter Classic against the Bruins. I liked the decision to put Dumoulin down there with Ruda. I kind of made a joke before the game, like, oh, of course, Ty's first game came with Dumoulin, but I thought they played fine. I was actually very happy that Sullivan moved POJ up to the second pairing, put him with Mark Friedman, and moved Dumoulin down. That is what they're going to have to do until Kris Letang comes back. Obviously, when Letang comes back, someone's going to have to come out. Right now, probably going to be Ty, even though it shouldn't be. But I think if it is Ty, I think you're probably going to see Dumoulin down on the third pairing. The bigger question will be what happens with the defense when Jeff Petrie is ready to play. I think that's going to be the big one for me. Mark Friedman, I thought he had another solid game. He's that perfect, fringe NHL or number 6, number 7 defenseman. He's not going to wow a lot of people, but, he gets under players' skins. He has a nice first pass. He's fine defensively. His underlines have always been solid. There's a lot to like about him. There's really nothing to not like, I should say, about Friedman. I don't know why some people pick on him too much. He's a fine, NHL defenseman. I think if he were to be a free agent, like right now, he would probably have a ton of teams interested in him. I think he's a really good number 6, number 7 defenseman in the NHL. At least that's my opinion. I think he had a solid game tonight. Outside of that, I don't really have too much else to say about this game. Penguins just have to get the things rolling. I think they will be fine for the long term. Tonight, just a couple of things went against them. Again, the special teams were awful. 5-on-5, especially bad in the third period. Before that, I think they were fine. It's just I didn't think the Penguins were forechecking nearly as aggressive as I think they should be. The 6-on-5 was awful because they couldn't gain the zone. I think all those are very correctable errors. Yes, they're dealing with injuries right now, but so are many other teams in the league. But if they're able to get that power play back up and rolling, penalty kill, able to get back, if they're able to get that back to the way it should be, not be giving up a goal per game, and get some healthy bodies back, and Tristan Jarry doesn't allow some of those weird goals, this team should be fine. I understand that some people don't like Mike Sullivan. Whatever. The head coach is not above criticism. I am more than willing to criticize him. That said, I think he made a couple of good moves tonight. People are going to freak out that Drew O'Connor was not on the lineup. And yes, I understand that is a little annoying because I think he did play well in that game on Wednesday against the Red Wings, and he only played 7 shifts after, which was pretty pathetic. And I know Dayton Heinen did not play that well tonight, even though he had a couple of good chances. That said, Jens, did that decision really make a difference in this game? Did it? No, I'm a serious question. Did it make a difference? No. I don't think Drew O'Connor's presence was going to, have the Penguins score a power play goal on their 9 opportunities, or just get outscored 1-0 on 9 power play opportunities. So I know losing is not fun. They've gotten a couple points. They're still in fine positioning right now for the playoffs, but you got to get this thing rolling sooner rather than later. Next up, though, big game against the Boston Bruins on Monday. I cannot wait for the Winter Classic. I love watching it on TV. It's going to be a great game. The Bruins are one of the best teams, if not the best team in hockey. We'll have to see if Kris Letang is healthy enough to play in that game. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to have a full preview for it on the Locked On NHL national show for Monday, so you can look for that there with Gil Martin. Really looking forward to that. Maybe I'll hook up with Ian McLaren, host of Locked On Bruins, over the weekend here to do a little preview, but really looking forward to that. Before I sign off, though, thank you all so much for continuing to listen to this podcast. This has been an amazing year for the show. This is easily the most listened to. This is easily the most that this podcast has been listened to this year. I have the numbers right in front of me. 221,000 yearly downloads. Thank you so much. This month, over 16,000 monthly downloads. I cannot thank all of you enough for continuing to listen to the show. It means so much to me. We got up to top 20 on Chartable today. Even when the team is losing, you all are coming out and listening to the show and watching the show on YouTube. It means the absolute world to me. So great things happen in 2022 for the show. We're going to go above and beyond for this show in 2023. Mark my words on that. So again, thank you all so much for listening. I hope you all have a wonderful and a safe new year. Please stay safe. Don't do anything stupid on the roadways and stuff. Have some drinks if you're over 21 and all that. And I will see you all in 2023 on Monday when we'll recap the Winter Classic between the Penguins and the Bruins. I'll talk to y'all then. Hope you all have a great new year.